My name is Brian Lee Durfee. I'm the author of The Forgetting Moon, published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press, also The Blackest Heart here, and The Lonesome Crown. Today's video is going to be the best professional writing advice you've ever heard, simple secrets finally revealed. The reason I'm doing this is because I know a lot of you that are writers want to know the secrets of how to get published and what's the best stuff. So that's what we're going to talk about today. The Just so you know, the some of my background is The Forgetting Moon was an Audible bestseller. In July of 2019, it was the #2 best-selling audiobook in the world on Amazon.com and Audible.com. I beat out the Michelle Obama bio for a week and just could not quite beat out the Reese Witherspoon book club book, but I can say that I was the #2 bestseller in the world. Some of my other bona fides are this book has been compared by professional reviewers to authors such as George R.R. Martin, Stephen Erickson, Tad Williams, Robert Jordan, Brandon Sanderson. As you can see, I write big, thick books, and they are compared to as complex and detailed, and as George R.R. Martin stuff, the world building is compared to stuff in Game of Thrones. And these are by professional reviewers and also Goodreads reviewers and Amazon.com reviewers. Another thing that I've done is, besides writing my own books that have been compared to some of the greats, I've also sat in Comic-Con panels. I've sat on panels with famous authors and writers, and like Brandon Sanderson, Jim Butcher, Christopher Paolini, Tad Williams. I've done panels with Timothy Zahn, Kevin J. Anderson, David Farland, Laurel K. Hamilton, Sherilyn Kenyon, Faith Hunter. I'm trying to think of some more. Mercedes Lackey, David Weber, Jonathan Mayberry, Sam Sykes, Ellie Modisett Jr., Peter Arulian, Larry Correia, Dan Wells, James Dashner, who wrote The Maze Runner, Christopher Rocchio, Brandon Mull, to name a few, Tracy Hickman, and many others. I've sat on panels with these guys in many Comic-Cons across the country and discussed writing with them. Not only that, but I've had lunches, dinners, I've sat at the bar after the Comic-Cons with most of these writers, and I have, we've talked about the craft of writing, and I've gathered up some of the secrets that they have and some of the tricks that I use for good writing. And so, you're going to get some advice from all of these writers combined with how I do things. And there's some simple tricks that you can do that are going to benefit your writing, speed up your writing, make you a professional writer. And a lot of these things not a lot of people talk about. So you're going to be learning some insider secrets. And not only that, not only the fact that I'm using some information from a lot of other famous writers, hey, it's me. I'm not going to steer you wrong. I'm Durfee. I'm here to be honest with you. So the first bit of writing advice I'm going to give you, and there's going to be 4 bits of writing advice, so you want to stay for the whole thing, and you want to stay for the whole video to get all 4 bits of writing advice, and with the 5th one that's probably the most important, that will be right at the end. Well, the first bit of writing advice is I'm going to tell you, have a computer, your desktop computer that you use for the internet, for everything, and don't ever do your writing on that computer. Have a separate laptop computer that has no internet. It can't be infected with viruses. It can't be used for internet searching while you're writing. It's just the only thing on that laptop is your books and your Word documents that have all your books in it, and that is it. That's the only thing you use that laptop for. And you also need to save your documents. I keep 4 zip drives, 2 in my house, 1 in my car, and I keep 1 on my key ring here that stays with me at all times. And after every bit of writing that I do, I save my documents to those 4 zip drives, and I've always got them. And you can also use the cloud if you'd like, but just make sure, because hey, if I take a trip to France and I leave my laptop at home and my house blows up in a freak accident, at least I've got my car keys, I've got the zip drive that I keep in my car, And even if my car blows up at the airport, I still got my keys. Or if for some reason I fall into the ocean and my zip drive in my pocket is destroyed, but everything at home is safe, I've got all that. So I'm covered on all bases, because I've met a lot of writers that have just used one computer for everything. They save everything on it, they save all their writing on it, and then they use it to surf the internet, and they get a virus and everything's lost. So save your stuff. The second bit of my writing advice, and this is going to get a little more detailed into just the nuts and bolts of writing itself, and that is, when you set up your Word document to write your novel, what I want you to do, and this is the secret, this is one of the biggest secrets that I think is going to help you, is when you set up your Word document, I want you to kind of figure out generally how many chapters this book is going to be that you're writing. Let's say it's 55 chapters. What I want you to do is you're going to open up your Word document, and you're going to do a different page for every chapter. You're going to open up a page in chapter 1, and then another page, chapter 2, another page, chapter 3. And then what you're going to do is you're going to say, let's pretend we're writing Game of Thrones. Chapter 1 is narrated by Jon Snow. Chapter 2 is narrated by Arya Stark. Chapter 3 is narrated by Jaime Lannister. But you've got a document with 55 pages representing each one of your chapters. And then what you do is at the top of each of those chapters, this is where your outline is going to be. Let's just say chapter 1 is the prologue. Just a couple sentences, this needs to happen in the prologue. Chapter 1, this needs to happen in the opening chapter. Chapter 40, Ned Stark needs to have his head cut off. Chapter 54, Darth Vader needs to tell Luke that he's his father. These are the chapter headings, and that's your basic outline. And you've got it right there on 55 pages in your one-word document. And then what happens is every time you think of something in your head that you want to use in your novel, you write it down. I keep a piece of paper in my wallet and I write that stuff down. I don't care whether it's a line of dialogue. I don't care if it's an entire scene. I don't care if it's one single word that I've never used in a book before and I'm like, I'm going to use that word in a book. I write that down. And I don't care if I'm in the shower. It doesn't matter if I'm asleep or falling asleep, if I'm driving, if I'm doing whatever. I stop what I'm doing when I have that idea and I write it on that piece of paper. And when I get home, I take that piece of paper, I open up my laptop that's never been hooked to the internet, that's just got my writing on it, and I plug in whatever idea I have for that, whether it's chapter 1, the prologue, or chapter 55, no matter where that idea fits in my novel, I've already got those chapters set up. I type that idea out into the appropriate place where it belongs, and then I save it on all 4 of my zip drives. And then when I go to write chapter 1, and I use the same document, I'm writing the book in this same document. So let's say I do that. I got all my 55 chapters. There's 1 page for each chapter. I've got a few notes, a few headings for each chapter, what things are going to happen in each chapter, plot points, this, that, and the other. And then I've got all these notes that are starting to build within these chapters, and it's creating this big outline for the book, right? So then when you start the book, let's say you start the prologue, you write the prologue right there. You've already got the page written, and let's say that prologue takes 5 pages. Well, there's 5 pages right there. Then you move on to chapter 2 or chapter 1, and then you write chapter 1. And the whole time, weeks and months are going by as you're writing this, and you're thinking of so many ideas, and you're always writing them down. If you don't want to write them down and you want to be like Kevin J. Anderson and carry a little tape recorder with you and just speak into it, that's fine. You can speak into your phone. I know people who do that. But just make sure that every single idea you have, you do not. I don't care if it's a bad idea. I don't care if it's a crazy, stupid idea. And you write it down, put it in those notes in each chapter. And when you get to that chapter and you write it, you might look at that note and say, what the hell was I thinking? That's a stupid idea. But you're gonna remember everything and where you were when you thought of it. And you're gonna put that in the book. And the thing is, let's say you spend 6 months and you're 13 chapters into your book. You've got 13 chapters finished as a first draft. You've still got the other 40 some odd chapters you got to write, and or maybe 30 some odd. I'm not good at math, but I'm not here teaching you math. I'm teaching you writing. So you got some of the, but over time you've filled those chapters with so many notes that sometimes when you go to write chapter, say 32, you've got already pages of notes, already ideas of notes and dialogue and different scenes and different bits of description and stuff already built into that chapter because you've been saving these notes. And sometimes that chapter might have 1 page of notes. It might have 10 pages of notes. You might have already written most of the chapter with your notes. And then when you get to it, you're like, oh, this is going to be an easy chapter to write because I've already got all these notes and I just plug them in. And your book will say, the way that you write, you'll start to speed up. I promise you this. If you do this way, and you write one book and then a second book and a third book, by the third book, second or third book, I promise you, you will be as good as a professional writer, and you will learn to take notes and always be thinking of stuff. And people are going to be mad at you because you're going to be in a conversation with them and you're going to stop because they're going to say stuff to you that will work. They just put something in my head, something they jogged my head and with an idea, whatever they said, and you stop and be like, hey, can I use that in my book? And you write it down, And sometimes they'll say something obscure that will make you think of something else obscure that'll go in your book, and you stop your conversation and you write that down. Like I said, no matter what you do, whatever thought you have, if it's crazy or not, put it down. When you go to write the book, if you can eliminate the crazy stuff if you want. Sometimes I just go ahead and write the crazy stuff, and then in my second draft, I get rid of it if it just doesn't work, okay? So that is the first or second bit of advice. That's the second bit of advice. The first bit of advice was one laptop, no hooking that to the internet. Now, another thing you want to do is oh gosh, I've got some notes here I'm looking at, so I make sure I get everything in this. Sorry, just let me try to follow down to where I'm at my notes. The third thing you want to do, that's where we're at, number 3. Like I said, I'm not teaching math. 1, 2, 3. We're on 3 now, right? Okay. So your first draft is for getting so your outline, we've already discussed how to do that. Just all in one document, all your chapters put together. Chapter headings, you just put fill in your outline here and there, kinds of puzzle pieces here and there, and you'll have a big, huge outline, and then start writing your book as you're building your outline on the same document, right? And then by the time that you're done with your book, you're going to have a big document of. Now, my books are 300,000 words long, and then they're the same size as Wheel of Time, the same size as Game of Thrones. Your book might be smaller; it's probably going to be smaller, but whatever. Once you get that document, it's all written. My third bit of advice is write fast. When you're writing those initial first draft chapters, just get the ideas out. Just get them out on the page. If you get stuck in, let's say you have a scene where your characters get on a whaling ship and you're going to send them off on a whaling adventure, but you don't know anything about whaling. Just write the scene as best you can without researching anything about whaling, because that's what you're going to do in your second draft. Your second draft is going to be because what you're going to do is you're going to write your scene about whaling and all this big whaling adventure, and everybody's getting killed and harpooned and the whales are dying and whatever's in your scene. I don't care. Maybe it's about horses and you don't know what a certain farm horse's duty is, and just put a note, research farm horses, and then move on. Just put a note, research whaling, and then move on with the story, because you don't want to get bogged down in 3 months of research, and it'll stop you cold in your tracks. Just keep going with the story. Do the research in the second draft, or do the research at some other point in time when you've got a little more, when you're not really interested in writing or something, and then do the research if you're taking a break from writing or something like that. So that's the third bit of advice. And then on your third draft is when you fine-tune everything, and then your fourth draft, you fine-tune it again. By your fourth or fifth draft, you should be able to be comfortable sending that manuscript. You get your query letter for your agents and your first 3 chapters, polish your first 3 chapters, hire a professional editor to go over your query letter and your first 3 chapters, and you mail that to every literary agent in New York that you can find. And I guarantee you, if you've followed my steps and you've written 1 or 2 or 3 novels in this with the way that I just told you, you will get a book contract. It's just, you're going to get better at writing. It might not happen with your first book. In fact, it probably won't. It could happen with your second book. My second book, that's what happened. The first book I wrote was a horror novel about the size of Stephen King's The Stand. My second book was this epic fantasy, which is about the size of Game of Thrones, but it got published by Simon & Schuster, arguably one of the best publishers in the world, okay? So followed my advice. Write. I know that some people say you need to write every day. You know, that's good advice. I don't think it's feasibly possible because a lot of us, like me, when we were writing, we had day jobs when we were starting out. Like I did carpet cleaning. I'm prison guard, carpet cleaning. I did writing when I could, but I was at least writing 3 or 4 days a week in my spare time. So when you have spare time, most of your spare time, you need to be writing. Not all of your spare time, because you need to play Skyrim. You need to watch the Oakland Raiders football games once in a while. You need to go on a date with your wife or girlfriend or kids or whatever it is. I understand life happens, so don't follow the advice of write every day. It's not necessary, but write during a lot of your free time, if not most of your free time. And the 5th bit of advice, and the most important one that I can give you, is when you're writing, you have fun doing it. Because I'll tell you, the readers know when the author is having fun writing, because do you know why? They're having fun reading your books. So those are the secrets that not a lot of people talk about. And that is hard work, making sure, in my opinion, the big secret is keeping good notes. And don't let yourself get in the habit of, oh, I'll remember that later, because you will not. Keep good notes, format your book like I said, do first draft fast, second draft research, third draft fine-tuning, fourth draft more fine-tuning, and then send your stuff out to the editors and agents, and don't be afraid, be confident, be professional, and have fun. That's the video, and I appreciate you watching it. Thank you.